This is part 2 of a 2-part series where I'll be ranking every single major coaster manufacturer there is. If you haven't already, I'd highly recommend checking out part 1 before watching this one. The roller coaster industry is comprised of some innovative manufacturers and design firms. In my opinion, talking about what rides have come up with is one of the more interesting discussions in this community, so here we have my first ever video about that topic. For the sake of this video, I picked out 24 of the most major roller coaster manufacturers that came to mind. In this second portion of the mini-series, we'll be taking a look at numbers 12 to 1. Before we get into this, however, I'd like to ask if you guys could subscribe to the channel. We just recently hit 2,000 subscribers, which is yet another amazing milestone, so let's keep that going, guys. Now, without further ado, here is how I rank every single major roller coaster manufacturer, part 2. Number 12, Aerodynamics. If this were a list of the most revolutionary coaster manufacturers, Aerodynamics would undeniably place it the number 1 spot. Of course, everyone knows that they built the world's first tubular steel coaster and Matterhorn at Disneyland, and the world's first hyper roller coaster with Magnum XL200 at Cedar Point, but they went far above that as well. They introduced us with the world's first modern-day inverting roller coaster, world's first quadruple inverting roller coaster, the first quintuple, heptuple, and I think sextuple as well, though correct me if I'm wrong about that one. As far as their ride quality, their older rides are known to be quite headache-inducing, but I for one have never had too much of an issue with roughness on aero coasters. The trick is to keep your head out so that you avoid all headbanging in the inversions and turns. Anyways, a select few of their rides are known for being pretty freaking amazing. X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain is my personal favorite, and what a chaotic ride it is. They are also responsible for Magnum XL200, Tennessee Tornado, the Big One, Desperado, Steel Phantom, and the list goes on. Definitely a manufacturer for the books. Number 11, Premier Rides. To be honest, I really don't love Premier Rides as much as most people do. That's not to say that they don't make fun rides, because they definitely do, but their Skyrocket 2s, for example, focus on positives after positives after positives on a sit-down coaster, which has never really been my thing. I guess I struggle to pinpoint why sometimes, but I feel the same way after riding one with and without comfort collars, so I don't know. Speaking of, those comfort collars really kinda suck. Much of their newer designs feature those restraints when they clearly don't need them, but oh well. Full Throttle seems to be the one exception for coasters by Premier that I genuinely do really like, because that ride has a good blend of positives, negatives, and surprises in the layout. I could see how this might be a low spot for some people, but I don't know, I guess it's just me. I haven't yet been on a Mr. Freeze clone yet, but in my opinion those look to be the best Premier Rides coasters, so I look forward to giving those a shot. Number 10, Custom Coasters International. The defunct company of CCI is one that is responsible for some pretty awesome wood coasters. The only one I've personally ridden is Boulder Dash, but riding that gave me one hell of a first impression. Some other standout rides they've done are Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure and the various Woodies at Holiday World and Indiana Beach, both of which can be found in the state of Indiana. I personally love that their designs consist of a perfect airtime and lateral G-force blend, which is exactly what I look for in a good wooden roller coaster. Also, some could argue that Ghost Rider is a CCI too, but I didn't ride the old version, so I personally don't count it. But what I will say is that they are responsible for that awesome layout, which once again is really heavy on negatives and laterals. I really can't wait to get on more CCIs because their wood coasters seem to be right up my alley. Number 9, Vekoma. This manufacturer can be split up into two groups, Old Vekoma and New Vekoma. Their older rides, such as the SLC and Boomerang, are notorious for being incredibly rough and unpleasant coaster experiences. On the other hand, their newer rides will make you question the company's past. They honestly look so good that if we were ranking Vekoma based off of just their new designs, they place in the top 3 or 4 on this list. Unfortunately, I couldn't really do that since they're still responsible for some pretty bad coasters, but if they proceed down their current path, they'll continue to climb higher and higher on this list. I mean, seriously, look at Let Coaster and Abyssus in Poland, for example, and tell me that they don't look amazing. It's a shame that these new Vekoma coasters are located so far away from the US, but I do hope to get out and ride some of them eventually because they really do look astounding. Number 8, Gerstlauer. Oh yes, you really can't go wrong with a good Gerstlauer coaster. Their Infinity and Eurofighter designs are both awesome creations. Here in the US there aren't a ton of them, but in Europe especially you can find the vast majority of their thrill coasters. Shortest Carnon and Smiler are two of their most prominent rides, and both are very different from one another. While Carnon focuses on brutally fast-paced transitions, Smiler has more inversions than any other coaster on Earth with 14. Away from their record-smashing coasters, they can build some pretty compact, small rides that'll pack a big punch without breaking the bank. Look at Hydrus or Adrenaline Peak, for example. Those are great little Eurofighters that worked within their park's budget. Like Vekoma, I really hope to get out and ride Gerstlauer's crazier rides in Europe, but for now, I am eyeing Monster at Adventureland in Iowa, which looks like America's best Gerstlauer coaster. Number 7, Mack Rides. It took Mack a very long time to catch on to the thrill scene, but once they did, they really showed us what they were capable of. By far, Mack Rides is one of the most innovative manufacturers easily. If you look at some of their newer models like the Extreme Spinner or Big Dipper, it's no wonder why. Also, they have their LSM launch coasters, which unfortunately never really caught on. I'm totally kidding. There's like well over a dozen of them, and they're awesome. In my opinion, Mack Rides is one of the most well-rounded coaster companies because they'll literally build anything. Want a family coaster? They've got it. Want a spinning coaster? They've got it. Want a hyper coaster, water coaster, or a launch coaster? You already know who to call. I know this is a reoccurring theme at this point, but a vast majority of Mack's large-scale coasters can be found in Europe and Asia, but for now we'll have to live off of Time Traveler, Manta, and Slinky Dog. Number 6, SMS Worldwide. SNS has really been at the top of their game lately, with new designs and models that'll satisfy just about any park's needs. Their most recent one is the Axis, which I was fortunate enough to try out at their manufacturing facility in Utah. The prototype was absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to see a full-size version at a park soon. Along with that, their existing coaster models such as the 4D and Airlaunch are remarkably awesome rides. They really took the legacy of Aerodynamics and built onto that with Edgenica and Dinoconda, two of the best coasters likely ever built. And of course, I bet you'd never guess where their large-scale coasters are primarily located in. I wish they built more in America, and I guess they do, but where we get Max Force, China is over here flexing OCT thrust, which is a huge slap in the face, especially considering that the company is literally based in the US. I couldn't tell you why, but it doesn't discount how amazing their rides look to be, so there you go, SNS at the number 6 spot. Number 5, Great Coasters International. One of the premier wood coaster manufacturers is GCI, who have built some pretty remarkably fast-paced wooden roller coasters. Their best look to be Wood Coaster, Python and Bamboo Forest, and Jungle Dragon in China, but you can't be too salty about it when we've got Gold Striker, Renegade, and Mystic Timbers here in the States. That's far more GCI coasters than what most countries can say they've got. Also, I love how these coasters run. They're always smooth for wood coaster standards, but still have a bite to them for sure. That factor, combined with their out-of-control layouts, make for some absolutely fantastic wooden roller coasters. Even with wood coasters constantly being removed or renovated, we got GCI keeping it going with their incredible wood coaster designs. Number 4, the Gravity Group. This may be a shocker, but yes, I prefer Gravity Group to GCI. For one, they're definitely the most innovative wood coaster manufacturer, no questions asked. They were technically the first to put an inversion on a wood coaster with Hades 360 at Mount Olympus in 2013. Nowadays, many of their wooden roller coasters, particularly in Asia, feature an inversion, which is great for marketing and also provides a very unique thrill. What's so great about the Gravity Group though is even if your coaster doesn't have an inversion, it's still going to do something special. Ravine Player 2 crosses over a road twice and dives down a ravine. Boardwalk Bullet has more crossover sections than any other coaster, and the Voyage utilizes its terrain to perfection, all while it's got one of the longest ride durations of any coaster. Oh, and their little family coasters pack a real punch too, and I know many could argue that those are just as good as their larger rides. Anyways, it should be no wonder why that Gravity Group is well deserving of a number 4 spot. Their rides are always truly remarkable. Number 3, Bolliger and Mabillard. While B&M sometimes receives crap for building some not so forceful coasters and designing some pretty unoriginal layouts, come on guys, they are still so much fun. And even then, they have every right to include many of the same elements coaster to coaster, since they were in fact pretty revolutionary back in the day. Speaking of back in the day, old school B&Ms are wild. Their older designs are super intense, and newer ones in comparison aren't as much, which is where all the hate comes from. Nonetheless, let's step aside from that and look at their portfolio of coasters. They literally have every type of steel coaster imaginable. They've got the floorless coaster, the invert, the wing, dive, hyper, and even giga. I know their rides are pretty expensive too, but what you're paying for is always worth it considering the reliability. Reliability is something I didn't really put into consideration for this mini-series, but that's another reason B&M is so great. When you roll up to a park, you never have to worry about their B&Ms being closed because they're always up and running at whatever capacity is needed. Alright, it was a pretty tough call, but I've decided to put Rocky Mountain Construction at the number 2 spot on this list. I know for many enthusiasts, this is their favorite manufacturer, and I don't blame them at all. Their worst roller coaster is still within the top 100 in the entire world, but granted they've only been around since 2011. Still, I consider that to be extremely impressive. The only reason they didn't quite make the number 1 spot for me was primarily for 2 reasons. 1, they only have about 3 coaster types and only 2 of them are being built nowadays. 2, like I said, they haven't really been around for that long, so they only have 19 coasters in operation. That number is drastically increasing every year, so eventually I could see them jumping to the number 1 spot, but for now, their lack in quantity is something I just just can't look past. Nevertheless, these two things won't be a complaint down the line, I'm sure. As for the rides they do currently have, Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point is what is widely considered the best coaster in the entire world. Zadra at Energylandia is another one of the best, and soon Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Temple will open to the public and will surely blow people's minds. The future of RMC appears to be very bright, and I can't wait to see what they do next, but for now there is one coaster manufacturer that I find to be just a little bit better. Number 1, Pinfari. I'm kidding. Number 1 is Intamin. Like I said, I'm not really considering unreliability in this video, but that is the one problem with Intamin if you want to be picky. A lot of their coasters are maintenance nightmares, so much so that they have destroyed their relationship with Cedar Fair and Six Flags. That said, the rides that they did end up building are absolutely incredible attractions. If you look up on YouTube top 100 roller coasters in the world and watch some random enthusiast list or prediction, chances are you'll see it loaded with Intamin's coasters. Millennium Force, Intimidator 305, Maverick, Skyrush, Expedition G-Force, just to name a few, are some of their best work, but they literally will not stop. In 2021, Conda at Walibi, Belgium, Pantheon at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure will all open to be some of the best coasters in the world. Aside from ride quality, they have a ridiculously long list of coaster models, like a really long list, so those things put together make for what is, in my opinion, the best coaster manufacturer as of 2021. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed part 2 of this mini-series in which I'm ranking every single major roller coaster manufacturer. As always, please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. There's lots of awesome content coming that you guys definitely won't want to miss. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye guys.